I'm here.
Because okay, so we have our own empty QGIS interface. As you see, we have different canvas. This is as freshly installed. So this is more or less what you should get if you open it, as Luca showed you. So one of the first things we want to do is to go here and take some data. Now, this folder is my final release folder, where you have everything inside. Your project, your README data with some information, the raster and the vector. We will get to this one later, but I'm showing you now how to get to have a project from scratch. So let's say we want to start, we have downloaded some raster data, so some image data from our repositories. And we have here our lunar DEM, and I can simply take it and grab it here. You see that below here, immediately it starts to show unknown CRS. Okay, but in fact, if you click on top of it, as Luca showed, it's in equirectangular moon. And here you have all the information. This is the project CRS, meaning the coordinate reference system that is within your project. If you go here and you double click, you will get here, and in the information tab, you will have the information about this specific dataset, not all the whole project, but of a specific dataset. This is also because some of datasets can have a slightly different coordinate reference system, but if you load them, QGIS is actively trying to adapt their projection on the spot to visualize them correctly, but they will still have embedded their own reference system. So here is a rectangular, so the reference system of the project adapts to the one of the first data that you load inside. Since this is a DEM, it has some color coding, which is this one, which is related to the altitude, to the topography. We can double click, go to symbology, and change the color palette. So we can go here and go to single bud pseudo color. Essentially, if you double click on anything here, you will jump to the properties of the specific layer. We can have a single band color, or we can choose in this case the grayscale, or we can choose a color ramp here. For example, this one. If I click apply, this is propagated to my dataset, and you will see it color coded. The high parts are in red, the lower parts, topographically lower parts, are in blue, like in this palette. You can change it. You can also go to spectral, for example, just to have a different one. Now the low parts are in red, the high parts are in blue, but you can invert this. Clicking here and inverting the color ramp, this is basically swapping the values. So the lower values now are coded in blue and the other ones in red. So I just reverted the color scale. I can click apply. This is similar to what you have in your project. Now let's go and maybe go to the WAC mosaic, drag it, and then what happens? It's going to be placed on top of the previous one. So this was my previous one. This one is my image mosaic. Let me just readapt the windows. I can also have the two of them blended together by doing something like double click and going here to legend. We have our opacity slider that we can enable. This is a tool, a widget, that if we click apply, we find here. It's always in the properties of the image. You can enable that also for this one. And the way it works is that you slide and you make it transparent. Yeah. This is adjusting the transparency of my image layer, showing also what is below. Nothing more than that. Okay. So let's say we have this base layer. We can add as many image layers as we want. But let's say we want to keep this simple. And then what do we need? We need to start mapping. So our interface in line of principle is super simple. It's like that. You have different controls, like zoom in, zoom out here. This one is to adapt the view of the objects that you have in your table of contents. So you just zoom full, you click. So let's say with your hand, you move out, and you don't find anything anymore. It's just here because you did something strange with your mouse. You click here, and then this is adapting your view. Or you can go here and you want to highlight a specific layer. Maybe it's just a small image within a large image mosaic. I can go here, right click, zoom to layer. And this is returning to the selected layer. And I can zoom to every layer. So right click, table of content, zoom to layer. These are many ways to go back to what you want to observe. So after this, you see that in this top bar, you have this icon, gear-shaped icon. You go here, and here you have your processing toolbox with different functions that are into QGIS. I want to install my Mappy plugin because I want it to be below here and to be usable. So I have to go to plugins, manage and install plugins. It's opening my plugin manager. Here you have seen that you have a long list of features and functions that you can add. I want to go to settings here because in my settings, I have to enable this option, show experimental plugins. Mappy is an experimental plugin. And if you don't click and you don't flag this option, you will not see it in the list. So please be sure to activate show experimental plugins. Let's go back to all. And then here in the search bar, now, if I type Mappy, I see Mappy, okay? If I go back and just disable this option, and I type Mappy, you don't see it because you have to enable the experimental plugins. Now you see it, and now I can go and install it. So now it's fetching from the web the plugin and installing it. And this is creating two things. In my case, it's adding a new bar here with 3 buttons and this small interface here below.
Riccardo, can
Yes?
you show how to open and close toolbars and panels, because it might be useful.
Ah, yes, and to add new panels also. So they are basically, they all have this X icon. You can close them, and to reopen them, the processing toolbar you can do here. But also, if you right-click anywhere on the empty space on the bars, like here, you can add more panels, like the advanced digitizing panel, which is now here, and you can detach, you can move it around. Okay, there are many of those. Let's say I want to add my advanced digitizing toolbar because I will need it for later. So here I right-click anywhere here, and then I go select my toolbar. And now I have this. And I can also adapt my interface. So here there are some small dots. You can detach it and move it around. Yeah. Okay. Like so. This is my Mappy buttons. These 3 buttons are of Mappy. And you can adapt your interface at your needs. Not everybody wants to have the things in the same place. Okay, so now, if you go here, yeah, in your processing toolbox, you have your Mappy below here. It's correctly installed, and you see it here. If you expand it, there are some options, and most of the time you will use the mapping options. Let me make it larger. You have many things. The first thing that all of you have to do, and just once, is how to download and set up mapping symbology, because we are editing lines and polylines and polygons, but we want them to symbolize objects that are going to be represented on the maps. Could be faults, fractures, scarps, reverse faults, whatever. But to do that, we need to auto-download and set up mapping symbology, which was kindly prepared by Alessandro Frigeri and provided for us. So you double-click, you have this interface. You don't have to touch anything. This is going automatically to be installed in your computer. You do it once in your life, and then you can forget about it. So you click Run. here below. It's telling you here what is happening. It's pulling it from GitHub of Alessandro Frigeri and then installing it to your computer. And now you can close it. If for any reason you forget whether you did it or not, you can simply go here and do it again. This is no problem. After this, we need to prepare our mapping project. So for the moment, you see here, we have an untitled project. This is not saved. It's just our interface with some images, and that's it. So we can go here and create a quick mapping project setup. Double click. Here we can provide different information. Name of the project. This is Copernicus crater on the moon. So I can call it Copernicus crater map. Okay, this is just a title. You save your project file. Here it says invalid projection. Normally what you need to do is to open this drop-down menu and select the second option. Always in QGIS, the second option is the project CRS, meaning the CRS that you have here, okay? And then you have all the other options like the default CRS, which is the Earth Reference System, WGS64. But always select the second option if you want to save the mapping project according to what you have in your canvas. Then it says create additional light layer for structural mapping or linear features. Leave this on and then select where to save it. This is providing you a generic folder in your computer, but I can save to a specific directory, for example, in my desktop, in my Mappy demo. I can open it. And now, two things will happen. The first thing that will happen is that, maybe this is more visible. The first thing that will happen is that the project is going to be saved according to this name. And then that here, the vector files for points and lines will be created automatically. Let's try. Okay, so now I have my Copernicus crater map and my linear source features, source contacts, and source indicators. Now, if you go in your Mappy folder that I have just created, I have my Copernicus crater map with inside my project file and my vector file. In the dataset that you downloaded from the web, you also have the raster folder, which is actually here. So if you download it from the web, this is the structure. You have the parent folder, and inside you have the project file, the vector, and the raster, where you have all the image data. Okay. Let's say that for simplicity, I can open now this one because I don't think I forgot anything. Now, one thing that this is important, in the vector folder, you have this one. This is the geopackage file and some auxiliary files, gpkg. This is a container containing all your vector files, including the map. You can create as many as you want. You simply have to go into this interface of Mappy, which you can open if you go to the buttons of Mappy here with this icon, which is similar to this. You go here, and here you can adapt and adjust the location and the save location of your final geopackage. You can create as many as you want. Now, for simplicity, let me open the
Riccardo, while you open
yes.
it, just a comment. So basically, what Riccardo showed you is that Mappy also provides some additional small tools that can help you getting quickly to the point of performing, I think, and not spending time doing setup of QGIS. Anyway, in general, it would be better to go through a complete, let's say, course on QGIS where you learn how to create each layer by hand individually, how to add the fields to each layer, etc., which is a little bit too much to be covered here, but that's the idea.
But anyways, with what is covered here, you will be able to do some mapping activity. So now let's go back to the mapping project that we have provided you. So we can double click. We don't save this one at this point. And This is what you have. So again, these linear features, source contacts, and source indicators that you have seen before. Some layers with transparency. You have. You can also explore them if you like. We have some topography with the slider for the transparency. We have also some slope maps that is highlighting slopes that are lower than 10 degrees, from 10 or 15 degrees, and upper than 15 degrees. This is the legend. Some data for composition and the visible imagery. Okay, so you can explore, you can group, you can close. You see they are grouped into boxes and folders. But now let's focus on how to map in practice. So you remember I have my Mappy interface here. The thing that you need to take care of is the Mappy is working on with polylines. When Luca showed you that once you map polylines, then you can cross the tip of the lines. If you enclose an area with these polylines crossing the two tips, then a polygon will be created inside after you give a name to the point. Let's do one thing. Let's do an example with the shaded relief map. So the important thing you need to verify, all of you, if you are working with the pre-prepared project, is two things. The first thing is to go here, and in the limit layers, you have to choose source contacts. Linear features is linear elements. The word is saying it for us. It's just something linear, a fault, fracture, something that cannot be outlined with a polygon. For all the rest, for outlining areas and units, you need to use the source contacts. And source indicators are the points that are created inside. So all the time, if you work with mapping, you want to create units, you have to have source contacts and source indicators. So if it's not the case, go here and just select it. This is important. Every time the interface has to appear this way. The other thing you need to check is the position of your map. This is pointing to a folder in my computer. You have to go, and then you have to go to your Mappy, which in my case is here, your vector folder, and simply go to Copernicus map. But you can put it in whatever folder in your computer. Okay, I can click replace. So Mappy works in iterations, but in non-destructive iterations. You will see. The only thing you don't need to destroy or to delete is the source contacts and maybe the source indicators. Everything else you can create as many as you want. So now let's say that this is all set up: source contacts, source indicators, unit name. And here I have correctly placed my job package in an output folder that I choose in my computer. Okay. We go to source contacts, we change color. So double click symbology and make it maybe red because it's more visible. Yeah. There's a color wheel, so you can make it maybe also larger, 0.5. And then let's see, I want to outline the rim of my crater. So I go here, select source contacts. Then either I go on the pencil here, or I right click and toggle editing, and this is exactly the same. And then I go, you see that if I toggle the editing, some buttons appear clickable like these ones and the advanced toolbars. I can click here to create new entities. My cursor becomes like cross, and then I can add clicking nodes to outline my crater. The general suggestion to do some mapping, and this is the more general one, this is not related just to planetary mapping, is to start broad and then go to the details. You see that now I want to close this, so I have to cross the two. If I cross the two correctly, you will see a green cross. It means that I have encompassed the closed areas and the two tips of the lines are crossed. Then I right click, and it's asking me whether this is a certain contact, so a margin between two units. In this case, it's certain. Okay. Then let's see, I want to outline the interior of my crater. Okay, I see it very clearly. So I go here and I start to mark it super quick with the left click of my mouse. If I then want to map something which is outside my window, I don't have to do anything. I simply have to go here take the hand, move, and then go back to the button used for adding nodes. Okay, so if I want to move it, go to the hand, drag, go back to the mapping button, and then I can continue. In case I stop for some reason, this is certain content, I can revert and just finish my work later. So I can go here. Remember just to cross the tips of the lines. Certain. Okay. If I disable this, you will see how these appear. They should be like this. If not, the polygons will not be created. Then let's say I want to outline the central peak, which is this one. So I can go, then start mapping the central peak. 1 unit. You see how sharp is the central peak with respect to the surroundings. So I can type certain. I can do with the other side of the central peak, the other element, let's say, of the central peak. You will see. Okay, but then I see also another thing, which is if I also toggle on this one. In the slope map, I see that there's an area which is smoother with less slope and an area which is much, much rougher, okay? So I want to outline the two, so I can do this. More or less it stops here. But the contact here is not super clear, you see? It's not as sharp as this scarp or this contact. So it's inferred. Yeah. Then here as well, we don't exactly know where this is finishing, but I can go here, for example. We have to interpret more or less its position because it can be gradational or transitional. Then here, you see, it's like sketching on a piece of paper, a map. We sketch the map, we sketch on the paper the major elements that we see, and then we start to improve it. At this point, I didn't do anything, I just digitized some contacts, okay? And this is how they appear. If I have set everything correctly here, okay, I simply have to go and click Recompute Map. Let's see what happens. It saves automatically the project. It saves automatically the editing, and it's creating the polygons. And if you take the source indicators and just move, dragging them up, you will see where they are placed. Again, here we can change color to make it more visible. Well, let's say we put it bright red. And then I need to go and give some names to these points. Okay. This final map, you can also use some transparency. So you can double click, and in the legend, you can go to the opacity slider and apply. So you have the slider, or you can adjust the transparency in other ways, like in symbology here. But for the moment, let's do this. Yeah. So we adjust the transparency. If you have a small screen and you don't see it because your window is just going outside the screen, try to go up when you open it. Try to go here on the top of this window, because in smaller screens, you just have some portions outside the window. Go here, try to resize it, move it up. This is solving some problems with the smaller computers. After this, I need to give names. Okay, so I have 1 point here. I can go in this selection button and I can select it. And as Luca said, all these entities are basically a list of objects. So if I right click, I can go to the attribute table. And here I see that my point is selected. This is number 1. This is this point. If I select this, this is selected. And if I select this, this appears. So I need to give a name to this unit, this one in this case. I have to enable the editing, and then I can type inner scarps, for example. Okay. Number two is this one. It's a smooth floor. Okay. I'm basically now creating my legend. Then number 3 is this one, is Samoki or rough floor. Now this is my central peak here. And then I have another central peak. So if you want these two to be part of the same unit, so with the same color in the legend and belong to the same element in the legend, you need to type it exactly in the same way. If you make it uppercase or change something, they will be assigned to different elements of the legend. Once you've done it, you can close. You see that in your final map here, everything is null. But now Mappy can pick up the names that we give to these points and assign a legend. And how to do it? You recompute your map again. So colors disappeared because here I made a mistake, you see? I used FID. This is just a progressive number. If you open the source indicators, you see this is FID. I want to use the unit name. So you have to go here and use unit name. So don't worry if you make a mistake like this. Click here, and now you have your legend, okay? And your legend has a central peak, a mucky floor, inner scarps, and smooth floor. You see that the central peak are these two units. You gave the same name to these points, and so the units are assigned. Another thing happened, and let me disable the image layer. You see that the contacts were very roughly closed, not very pleasing to the eye, but a new layer called final contacts is created. This layer gets rid of all these construction lines. So if I disable my source contacts here, you will see that the final contacts is now clean. Yeah. We can do other things with the final contacts. Later on, I will show you how to symbolize. But before, I want also to show you how to adjust the position of vertices and improve the map. We are almost done. Let's say I have traced really badly this. Let me disable the final contacts. This contact here. So I want to improve my source contacts, which is my construction lines. How to do it? I have to go here, toggle the editing. If I didn't do it, I have to toggle the editing. This button is to add new features. This is to modify existing features. So it's just close by. If I click and I go, my mouse becomes another symbol, like a small cross. If I hover my mouse on top of one of the elements, you will see that some things will be highlighted. Maybe this is more clear. If you go on top of the segment is highlighted. If you go on the top of one of the vertices, the vertex is highlighted. And if you go in the middle of the segment, a new red cross appears. What does it mean? If I go to a vertex and then I left click, I can now move the vertex, okay? If I go to the segment and I left click on the segment, then I can move my mouse and adjust the segment, which is taking its orientation, but I can move it and can translate the segment, okay? And if I move the mouse in the center of the segment with the red cross, I can add a new node, increasing the complexity. So I'm splitting in half the segment. So you have to click, not to click and drag. Click, release the button, and then you can move your mouse. I'm enabling the map again because now I can go and improve my contacts, adding new complexity. And then again, as before, I can use my drag button to adjust. So I can create a new vertex here, another one here. I can move this vertex. I can create another one here, then another one here, and so on. You see that I'm moving the construction lines, but the map is still as the old one. This is also a good reference because you see how you are improving your map. Let's say that I have improved a bit this part here, more or less. And now what I want to do, I want the map to match my new contacts. So I go here and I recompute the map. And now you will see here, the map will adapt to the new position of the contacts. This is a good way because you can start sketching your map roughly, and then you can go in detail and you can refine the map. Yeah, let's do it one more time. Source contacts, enable the editing, go in the modify section, hover your mouse on the vertex, move the vertex, hover the mouse in the center of the segment, move the segment and split it in two. And so, like that, you can improve the quality of your map. Yeah. Let's do a new refresh, save, and then the map is then saved again. Let's improve it again. You can go over and over, okay? And if you're creating a new unit, for example, this small crater here, I go in my source contacts. In this case, I have enabled the editing. I start outlining my small crater in a very, very bad way. And then I recompile the map, save. Vertex is added here. If you open the vertices, the source indicators, this is null. We still have to have a category. We call it small. Yeah. And then recompute the map. And now we have small crater here. Yeah. If you then want to adjust the position of the elements of your map, because in geology we put just at the bottom of the legend the older things and at the top of the legend the most recent things, you simply double click on it, you open the properties, you go to symbology, and then, for example, the small crater for sure came after the emplacement of the big one because it's on top of it. You can go and then you can drag and put it at the top. And then, for example, the smooth floor for sure came after the central peak. And then also the amorthy floor. Then you can click and then you have your legend. How to cut things. Source contacts again. I want to split in half or open some part of the segments because I want to merge things. Let's say I am adding a new part of this, okay? And if I recompute my map, I have this other polygon, but I want these two polygons to be the same. This is the central peak. I want this to be also central peak, but I have another point that I don't want. I can go to the indicators and I can remove the indicator I don't want. If the editing is enabled, I can simply go here and just delete it. But then I have a problem. I have two polygons and they are split by a source contact. I need to propagate the information that this polygon is picking up from this point to this other one. So I have to open one polygon towards the other to have the information spread into this other area. It's like if you open a gate and the information flows outside. So you go here and in the advanced digitizing toolbar, which again, if you click anywhere, you go here, you can enable. Okay, right click anywhere, you enable advanced digitizing toolbar. You go here on the scissors, this button, and then left click, right click. You see that the line disappeared, but in fact, what happened is that I have created a cut. So I can move the vertices. You see that now the line disappeared. It's being cut exactly where I passed with this tool. And now this is no more two different elements outlined by polylines, but this is a single area because it's all in communication. If I recompute the map, this is what happened. And if I enable my final contacts and disable the source contacts, it's going to be a single element. So you can play with it. You see that we also have put some emphasis into the symbology. If you go to the final contacts, you can say which symbology you want to have. So you can go here to single symbol categorized. You can classify them by certainty. Okay, so double click symbology, categorized. The value is the certainty. Remember, we were putting like certain or inferred or interpreted. And then you click classify, and we have, in fact, a certain and inferred. So double click on the symbol, you have in this menu the planetary symbols. And then this is a contact planetary location accurate. So you can click OK. Here you double click on this symbol, and here you have contact planetary location approximate, or concealed, or inferred. In this case, I put inferred. Okay, if I apply, this is changing how they appear. Yeah, one is a continuous line, one is a dashed line. One very last thing is how to produce a map for getting the certificate. Either you do a print screen of this one with a legend, or you can go in project, new print layout, and you can create a proper layout. Let's say, call it Copernicus. We also made a full lecture in the past editions about this. So you can go in our homepage of the website. If you scroll down at the bottom of the homepage, you will have the access to all editions and you can see all of it more in detail. But essentially, we open this interface. Okay, this is the printing interface. If you close it by mistakes, you can go to project, layouts, and you can reopen it. Every time you go to new print layout, I create new one. Let's call it new. And then you close it. Here you have all your layouts. Let's go to the Copernicus map very quickly. The plus buttons with the green icon, the green plus, adds in elements to your piece of paper. This is the map. This tool here is to adapt the window where you have your map. The tool below with the blue arrows is to move the map inside your window. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, okay? You can add the title. How to type in the title? You go here, you scroll down, in the item properties, Copernicus map. And then you can adjust the font size to be larger, okay? And then what you can do, below the title, you have the legend. You click on the legend, you drag a box, and you have your legend. Here you have a lot of things, maybe too many, because maybe we just want our units and our contacts. So you go to legend, you go to item properties here, you go here, disable the auto update, and then you can simply select what you don't want, and then you, with a minus button, you'd remove it. Like here, like the source contacts, like the imagery, for example. And so you have your nicely created legend. You have your scale bar just here below the legend. Then you have your north arrow. Okay. And that's it. And then what you can do is to go here and export it as a PDF. Or you can go to layout and do export as PDF. And then you go to our Copernicus map, save. And then you save it. In this case, I click twice. But then you will see your Copernicus map in PDF in your folder. Okay, so remove the elements that you don't want, and that's it. Last thing, if you close it and you want to work on that later, remember that you can go here and then reprise your work. You can put linear features. You have some fractures and faults. You can use linear features. You can put them at the top. Let's say I have a fault like here, and then I can simply type that it's certain, and then it's I don't know, fracture. And then you can double click and categorize it by type, classify, fracture, and then double click and you search for fractures into this, for example, like that. Okay, and that's it. And once you reopen your map layout, you will see that you have your fracture. Is there anything I'm missing, Luca?
No, I believe, Riccardo, you did a great job.
Questions from the...
I believe one point is that if you're starting for the first time with QGIS, there are 200 ways of doing the same things in different ways.
Yes.
And keep that in mind and try to use, let's say, Google it if you don't know how to do something. There is a large community in the internet about users of QGIS or other softwares. You can most of the time find good examples, good answers there. Yeah.
Also, remember that we made more extensive tutorials on past previous course, but the content is essentially this one. So maybe we went a bit faster, but the lessons are recorded and more or less one day after they are issued in real time, they will be available. So you can go and rewatch it as many times as you want. And you can still type questions in Slido for the next month and we will be happy to answer, okay?